Calico Joe Chapter 6. Sunday, July 15th, 1973. Wrigley Field was once again packed with 41,000 fanatics. Another crowd, estimated at 10,000, mingled outside the stadium looking for tickets, drinking beer, listening to the radio, and in general getting as close as possible to baseball history. Adding to the excitement was the fact that Juan Marchella was starting for the Giants, and his road games generally increased the gate. Though his better years were behind him, Marchella could still beat any team on any day. With his high-kicking windup, superb control, intimidating tactics, and dogged competitiveness, Marchella was colorful and always dangerous. In the previous 13 years, he had pitched many games at Wrigley, and he had won far more than he had lost. He wasted no time in causing trouble. When Joe dug in the bottom of the first, Marichella's first pitch was aimed directly at his shoulder. Joe hit the ground and barely missed being maimed, and Wrigley almost exploded. From the Cubs' dugout, there were shouts, threats, lots of cursing at the mound, where Marichella rubbed the baseball, smiled, and considered the next pitch. As a rookie in his fourth game, Joe knew it was not the moment to charge the mound. He had to earn that right, and it would happen soon enough. Keep your cool, his brother Red had advised him. They'll start throwing at you before long. The next pitch was a fastball, and Joe, swinging from the left side, ripped it down the right field foul line, a screaming bullet that froze the defense and stunned the crowd. The ball was clearly foul, but it kept rising and rising until it landed high in the upper deck. The pitch had been outside by 6 inches and was traveling at something close to 95 miles an hour, and Joe had easily yanked it foul. Marichella was impressed. Willie McCovey took a step back at first, and Joe noticed this. The third pitch was a fastball inside. Joe broke with the delivery, his bat trailing. Marichella was at the end of his theatrical delivery and in no position to field a bunt. McCovey got a bad jump. Tito Fuentes raced to cover first, but to no avail. The ball rolled through the baseline chalk for 40 feet, then bounced slightly to the left. When McCovey picked it up, Joe Castle was sprinting past first base, now 14 for 14. So he faces this pitcher, Marichella, who kind of like throws the ball at him essentially, but it doesn't faze him. He gets right back in there and ends up bunting the ball and making it to first base. McCovey said nothing to the kid. When the crowd settled down, Marichella stepped onto the rubber and looked at Dave Rader behind the plate. He went into his stretch, kicked high, as always, and Joe was halfway to second by the time Marichella released the ball. Rader's throw to Fuentes was perfect, but much too late. After a leisurely slide into second, Joe bounced to his feet, looked at Marichella, shrugged, smiled, and spread his arms as if to say, "You throw at me, I'll make you pay." 2 pitches later, he stole third, then scored on a passed ball. In the bottom of the fourth, he blooped a single to shallow center for his 15th consecutive hit. Marichella then caught him leaning and picked him off first. As Joe had predicted, they eventually got him out. In his 16th at-bat, in the bottom of the 7th inning, Joe crushed a ball to deep center, and for a second it looked as if it were gone. But the center fielder, Gary Maddox, drifted back and back until he was on the warning track, then back some more until he was almost touching the ivy. 399 feet from home plate, Maddox caught the ball, and the streak was over. Joe was at second base, jogging, watching Maddox, and when the out was final, he turned and headed to the dugout. The crowd rose again in thunderous applause, and Joe took his time leaving the field. After the game, the Cubs announced that his jersey would be changed. Number 42 was set aside, and for the remainder of his brief career, Joe Castle wore number 15. So he finally gets out, and he's given a new jersey number with the Cubs, and that number is 15. And the reason why he is given the number 15 for his jersey is that's how many consecutive at-bats he had until he finally got out. So pretty great record to hold for Joe Castle there. The following Thursday, the Mets began a 4-game home series against the Cardinals that was a run-up to the All-Star game. Of course, I knew the pitching rotation. My father was scheduled to get the ball Thursday night, and I wanted to be at Shea Stadium. Thursday afternoon, before he left for the game, we managed to talk a little baseball. As usual, he was preoccupied and going through his pre-game jitters. He was aloof on most days, but when he was about to pitch, he was so distant I wondered if he actually heard my voice. He was 34 years old and trying desperately to make something of his declining career. Looking back, I'm sure he was frightened at the prospect of aging out of baseball. The years were slipping by, and the great Warren Tracy was proving to be not so great after all. In the Mets rotation, he was the fourth man behind John Matlack, Jerry Koosman, and the incredible Tom Seaver. As the teams headed into the All-Star break, his record was 4 wins and 6 losses, and he earned run average was a bloated 5.60. The New York sports writers were demanding a new fourth man. The Mets were 2 games under 500 and apparently going nowhere. "Congratulations on making the All-Star team," he said. We were on the patio in the shade, drinking milkshakes. He had a banana shake, one he made himself, precisely 6 hours before he took the mound. One of his little quirks. All baseball players, especially pitchers, have them, he once told me. So I started looking for a quirk, which is so true. Everyone has their kind of like ritual or game day thing they like to do. Do you hit the bat a certain amount of times on your feet before you step into the box? Do you wear certain socks for every game, or have a certain meal before every game? And that's what Paul's dad does. Warren has this banana shake, not milkshake, but a banana shake exactly 6 hours before all the games. And that's just his little ritual that he does. "Thanks. We've been practicing every day this week. First game Saturday against Rye at 2 o'clock. Sorry I can't make it. The Mets played at the same time Saturday, so both of us would be happy. He wouldn't be at my game, and I wouldn't be at his." "You gonna pitch Saturday?" he asked. "I doubt it. Right now I'm number 2 behind Don Clements. He's 12. He couldn't have cared less. He sipped his milkshake and gazed across the lawn, lost in his own world. I really couldn't blame him. On the days I pitched, I thought of nothing else. I could not imagine how nerve-wracking it must be to walk to the mound at Shea Stadium in front of 50,000 fans and perform." "What about this Joe Castle guy?" I asked. He snorted his disapproval. "Not a bad start, but these guys flame out. Once or twice around the league, and we figure him out. Every rookie's got a hole in his swing. Sooner or later, we find it." He seldom said nice things about other players, even his own teammates. At the age of 11, I thought this was odd, but it would take a few years to understand that he was so insecure about his own game, he could rarely admire that of another player. "Wait until he starts seeing the hard slider," he said, his words trailing off as his mind drifted away. I wasn't going to argue or cause trouble. I was just thrilled to be talking baseball with my father. Not a bad start. After 7 games, Joe had 24 hits in 31 at-bats with 9 home runs and 9 stolen bases. "Say, Dad, I would like to see you pitch tonight. I'll take the train in and stay out of the way. Tom can come with me." He frowned and took another sip. It would be safe to assume that the son of a player would have all sorts of perks, including pre-game passes on the field, locker room clearances, and of course access to tickets. It did not work that way with Warren Tracy. He did not want me hanging around and often complained about other players who let their kids crawl through the dugout before game time. He considered this to be highly unprofessional. To him, the turf was sacred ground, and only those in uniform should be allowed to step on it. He flatly refused to speak with any reporter on the field before a game because, in his opinion, the press should be confined to the press box. "I'll see what I can do," he finally said, as if this were some great favor. My mom would not allow me to ride the train alone, so I had to invite Tom Sabatani. So this is interesting, or stuff we really already know about Warren, and the fact is he's not that great of a ball player. Obviously he's good enough to play in the major leagues, but he has this huge ego for someone who hasn't had that great of a career. We see all these other guys giving autographs to kids and taking pictures of the fans, and Warren refuses to do that. He thinks that he is above everyone, and so he doesn't even want to sit with the other parents right at his son's games. So this again just kind of shows us what kind of person Warren really is. "I'll see what I can do," he finally said, as if this were some great favor. My mom would not allow me to ride the train alone, so I had to invite Tom Sabatani. "I guess your mother's not going to the game," he said. Talk about a volatile subject. My mother went to a few games each season, as few as possible. We sat with the other Mets families, and I knew some of the players' kids, though we were not friends because no one else lived in White Plains. My mother refused to socialize with the other wives, and it was many years before she explained why. My father chased women, on the road, at home, in spring training, whenever, wherever. It didn't matter to Warren. My mother knew this, though I'm not sure how she knew. As with every professional baseball team, there were players who fooled around and others who did not. I don't know the percentages, and I doubt if a reliable study has ever been undertaken. Who really wants to know? As my mother explained to me years later, all the wives knew the reputations of the philanderers, and so it was safe to assume that every Mets wife knew Warren Tracy could not keep his pants on. She felt humiliated sitting in the section for the players' families with Jill and me and trying to pretend we were just another happy family. By July 1973, my parents had endured 12 years of a bad marriage. Both were making their own secret exit plans. Paul doesn't get to go to that many of his dad's games, and when he does, he can't go by himself, so he has to try to take a friend. And his mom barely goes to any of the games, and we find out why. It's because she's embarrassed, because she knows that all the other families sitting in the family section know that her husband cheats on her, and so she doesn't like to go to the games and put herself through that humiliation. That night, Tom and I took the train to Grand Central, then the subway to Shea Stadium. Our seats were perfect, 10 rows from the field, near the Mets dugout. My father pitched well, going 6 strong innings and giving up only 3 hits, but the Mets blew a 2-run lead in the 9th. On the way home, the subway was filled with rowdy Mets fans, some of them drunk. Occasionally on these trips or around the Little League field, or even at school, I would hear someone complaining about Warren Tracy. New York sports fans are rabid and well-informed, and they do not suffer from a lack of opinions. I was at Shea once when they booed Tom Seaver. Whenever I heard a derogatory comment about my father, I would always flinch and resist the temptation to return the insult. Often, though, the complaints were legitimate. I made it home, checked in with Mom, then hurried to bed. I did not want to be awake when he got home, if in fact he made it back. His worst drunks were on the nights after he pitched. He wouldn't play again for 3 days, so why not blow it out and raise some hell? In this chapter, we learned a little bit more about Joe Castle and the fact that he continues to have this great season until, yes, they finally do get him out, but despite that, he continues to do well at the plate. And we also find out more about the backstory of the narrator, Paul Tracy's relationship with his father, Warren Tracy, and a little bit more as why they don't talk nowadays. And we see that the relationship was never good between the two of them, even when Paul was young.